Let's get started. Hello.
Hello.
Tell me, who are you?
I'm Damian. I'm software engineer. What do you need to know about me? Let's
Just wanted to introduce you to the audience, and we just happened to meet up, and we talked about the speaker dinners and stuff like that, and then I realized somehow we came to, you use MongoDB.
Yes, I do at work. I use
All right.
MongoDB.
Yes, which is awesome because what we do at these conferences is we just hang out at the booth, right? Because it gives people a space to go to, where they know they can find MongoDB. Have you visited the MongoDB booth this year?
Not yet.
Not yet. You should. We have the entire PHP team here, except for one very talented Jeremy Mikola, who is missing because it's Thanksgiving today, actually. So happy Thanksgiving, Jeremy. So yes, we're recording this on Thursday. Let's see when it comes out. Let us know in the comments. So, you get to meet the product manager, Rishab, who does an awesome job at, he's the one that makes the money for these events come to be. You can meet Oscar, who's here the first time. He's a solutions architect based in the Netherlands. And he actually does work at companies, so it's part of our sales process. He works at companies and helps them design their applications for MongoDB and teaches them how to use MongoDB. That's how I got started in 2012. It was great. I got a 2-day tutoring work session, and this is that plus you get your actual application out of it. So it's kind of like a workshop tailored to you that they do. Awesome stuff, and you can talk to them a lot about how to build things. You can meet Jérôme, who maintains the Laravel integration and the entire Symfony MongoDB ODM stack. He's currently pushing for Doctrine ODM version 3. So you use Symfony, right?
Yes.
Do you use the Doctrine MongoDB ODM?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I have a gift for you later, but it's incomplete and I will send you the rest.
But
you will
if
see.
I may interrupt you, I would say maybe it depends, because we also have a Laravel project, which is also MongoDB.
Awesome. So in
So
your
there's
Laravel application,
two of them.
what do you use?
I think it's JSON,
Jens Segers?
Yeah, Jens
Which
Segers.
version are you on?
Oh, that's a tough question. I don't recall right now.
How would you like to talk to the guy about how to migrate to MongoDB /Laravel-MongoDB
That would be, I
to the
think, nice.
officially maintained Laravel integration? Because we could really use some people that use Eloquent with Laravel and tell us the problems. We are pushing into ODMs at MongoDB. So we used to do the drivers. That's the team that I joined. It was drivers. Then it was database experience because developer experience was taken. Somebody else wanted it. Can you believe it? This is developer experience. So we do, the driver is the part that you connect with. You know the PHP extension. You know the PHP library on top, right?
Yes. So SDK kind
the extension, so the extension provides a very low-level API.
Yes.
It takes the MongoDB C driver so that we don't have to repeat all that work. Adds a few things that PHP cannot do in userland, like certain typecast operations, comparing objects to one another. You can't do that in userland. We need that. And we also get the BSON implementation, so the binary JSON format that we use to store things efficiently in MongoDB. That's what we have in the extension. Then there's the library on top. So we did that. And in the PHP team, Jeremy Mikola is a long-time maintainer of the Doctrine MongoDB ODM. That's kind of how you got started, or what you did. And he kind of started pushing towards a 1.0 at the time. So that's how far back that goes. But there was no official stance. And for a long time, MongoDB stance was, do not use an ODM. It will make your shit slow. Which was true at the time because there was nothing written for MongoDB, right? It was all relational databases and had all of the flaws of relational databases booked into an ORM or baked into an ORM that's then going to be used for MongoDB. That's not going to work, right? You have designed documents for MongoDB, right? You have to unlearn database tables, right? It takes a while.
Yes.
Right?
When I joined this company, I never used MongoDB. It was in 2021 for me. So it was a bit or way different than I was used to, because I was so used to, let's say, SQL databases. I mean, besides, for example, Redis, which is not SQL as well. But that was, and it was quite fun learning, you know, about something new, something different. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have to completely unlearn it. And one of the tools that you start using is embedded documents, right? Like you realize that a lot of those in Doctrine ORM one-to-many relationships, and especially one-to-one, right? That is the classic, you have an embedded document. And the problem is that the ORM is not going to know about this. Now, the Doctrine ORM does give you embeddables that are then basically flattened. And with a prefix, they're just added as columns to the table. So that's how you can do kind of objects. Like, let's say you have a money value object that is always a certain integer plus a currency symbol. You have an embeddable type that has both these properties, but the ORM knows to flatten this into amount and currency in the database table. But for Postgres, you could do it differently, right? But it makes this stupid assumption because it's trying to abstract over databases that don't support everything. We don't want that, right? Like MongoDB does fix a lot of the problems with relational databases. And I always say, if you look at referential databases, not relational databases, because it's always a reference. A relationship is a reference. While in MongoDB, there are more relationships than references. There's embedding, which is basically like direct ownership. It belongs to you, it's a part of you, right?
Yeah, so it's kind of like aggregating, basically.
Yeah. You do a lot of data duplication along with it as a result. But we would want an ORM to properly do embedded documents, because if you use a regular ORM and you define a one-to-many, a one-to-one, a many-to-many, what is that going to be? Well, it's a reference.
Yes.
So it must be a reference in MongoDB. And now you end up with MongoDB as a relational database management system, which is going to go horribly for you because you can't join. What was your first MongoDB version?
That's a hard question, because we did some upgrades. Right now, I think we are on 6.
6. You should go to 8. 8 is fast.
But I'm thinking, what was the initial when I joined? It was like 3 years ago.
So which features did it have? Did it have aggregation pipeline?
Yes.
Yes.
It had.
What was a stage that you used in aggregation pipeline?
Oh, I don't remember. Like what was?
But you have used aggregation pipeline, right?
A bit. Let's call it like this.
Yeah, we have some cool stuff around aggregation pipeline. It's difficult, but it's cool. So it must have been after 2.8.
Yeah, definitely. It was like.
Did it have transactions?
I think so, but they were like a kind of a niche. Let's call it ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think they are like right now.
So because there's for 0 to
4 or 5, something like this.
No, it was so it must have been like 4.2 or so, because if it had transactions, those came in 4.2.
Was there
for sharded clusters?
Was there a 4.4 version?
There was a 4.4 version.
So
as
maybe
well.
that was 4.4. I'm not so
Right.
sure. I don't
Yeah.
have company
no
laptop
worries.
with me, so I cannot
no worries.
double check
Yeah,
it.
no worries. So that already had dollar lookup.
Yes.
Yes,
It
dollar
had.
lookup was
Yes,
there, right?
yes.
That didn't exist before. So what you end up with when you designed a relational database model as you know it for an old MongoDB version, you're going to run into thousands of n+1 problems, right? Because you have to read each relationship one by one, and with the joins, you expand the numbers of queries.
Yes.
MongoDB cannot optimize for that, right? Especially if you're not smart at managing persistent state, then you're going to do the same query multiple times. But since you run so many, there is no query cache large enough that you could use to return those results. And that ended up in a lot of people saying it's so slow. Is it slow for you?
No. Right now, as we know how to use it, we know like what is good about, and we know how to do properly indexing. That's the most crucial part, I think, and
Yes.
how to make good projections.
Yeah.
And also we use we have like a cluster.
Yeah.
So we have 3 nodes,
Yeah.
and we know that when we read, we should use the read preference.
Yeah.
So we are now
Okay.
in quite good spot, let's say, in terms of performance and reading and writing.
Yeah. So you said cluster. This is a good point to maybe talk about MongoDB Atlas for a moment. And I remember this. I'm an engineer. I've used MongoDB for years before I joined it, right? I work at this company and they pay me, but they don't pay me enough to only say good things about them, right? So this goes out to my boss, just so you know, I'm still not overpaid. Let's not go into details on this one, though. I mean, I do enjoy being paid, right? The money has to come from somewhere. So MongoDB is our basically commercial offering, right? You can get MongoDB on AWS or whatever. You can get it for free. Like, do you pay anything to accept your hardware to run it?
To be honest, I don't remember like how exactly. I know that we have it on AWS,
Yeah.
but whether it's like, I don't remember the details. How is it set up on AWS to be specific?
Yeah. But you use a replica set, right?
Yes.
You have 3 servers in your replica
Yes.
set, I presume?
Yes.
Right. So you have 3 instances of some hardware
Yes.
that you pay. But for MongoDB itself, you don't pay, right? Like you use the community edition, I suppose, or like you install it
Probably.
somehow
I
and
don't know.
you use that, right? That's a part that I like. And it's always been this way. You can just use it, right? And a lot in PHP is literally this, well, I have the spare pizza box laying in the server rack. You know what? I'm going to toss PHP, some database on there and make a shared web host, right? Like this is what you would do. And that's what PHP is made for, right?
Yep.
So it's a different use case from many other MongoDB customers, I will tell you. And there's design decisions that reflect this. Let's talk about web speeds for a moment. How long is an average request in the application that you have in production?
That's a tough question because that also depends on the type of request. Because some of the requests, for example, in this application which I'm referring to, let's say, it's like we get the request, we read something from the DB,
Yeah.
we make another request to some service,
Yeah.
which can be very slow.
Right.
So, but if we just read from the database, I don't recall, but it's milliseconds basically. It's very fast.
Right. Like we consider anything above 400 milliseconds slow.
No, it's way faster.
Yeah. Right. So if I gave you transactions, right, and the way they work is you call with transaction, and you have your logic in there, and it will retry this transaction until it fails or it times out, until it passes or it times out. So you have idempotent code. It does something. If there is an error, it checks, does this mean, like, is this a transient error in the transaction? Like, oh, sorry, this row has been modified, whatever, by another transaction or something. Then abort it, roll the transaction back, and call that logic that they gave to with transaction again. Let's try this one more time. If it commits, then you eventually commit, and then you check if that was successful, good, you're done. If that failed, then you check what kind of commit error it is. You can then either retry the commit, or you just say commit, and it may just pass. Or it tells you, roll it back, try it again. Okay. And it keeps doing that until it hits a timeout that you set. What would be your choice for timeout value?
I would say it depends on a use case.
Yes.
So there are some use cases which should be fast,
Yeah.
but we also have like a lot of async process.
Yeah.
So we have like workers, so they pick up some message from some queue, let's say.
Yes.
Probably SQS.
Yeah.
And if there is like a worker, there is some processes are just doing their stuff in the background. So there is no like, let's say, per se strict rule, timeout. So they can retry basically for some period of time.
Yeah, right. Because you do have some transactions where you say, I want a fast result.
Yes.
Okay. The user will refresh or try again later because that's literally what it says. We just need to make sure to respond so that he doesn't do anything stupid like close the tab and not actually buy the shit that we just sold him, right? Like that's what PHP does. It makes you a ton of money with a lot of e-commerce stuff, right? So you want it to just work. The default time that I would say for a write transaction is less than 100 milliseconds.
Yeah,
right?
That's
everything more than that is a conscious choice to make. Like if it's then a background process or in the CLI, then you might as well tell it, okay, we're in the CLI, so 5 seconds is totally cool.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So you should be able to configure it that way. But then there's always one default value to fall down on. Like, what if you used it as the driver intended and didn't give it a value? What's the same default that is in the drivers? It's 120
120
seconds.
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 All right.
Would you ever hit that timeout in PHP? A 120 second timeout.
I don't think so. We don't have like.
In the CLI, yes. Because
Okay.
in the CLI, max execution time is -1, so infinite.
Okay, so yeah.
Max
in that-
execution time is one of those PHP ini settings from the ancient days of shared web hosting, where you would want to free up Apache processes because the way PHP was deployed blocked an Apache process, so it couldn't take another request. And if you had some stupid customer writing an endless loop on there because they're stupid and like 14-year-old script kiddies making websites with shit they copied from somewhere on a news group, then you want to kill that request and say,
Yes.
like, that's not going anywhere, free up the Apache. And that was set to 30 seconds. So you're always going to hit the max execution time limit before the transaction uses. So 90 seconds of usage there would be completely wasted. Like, that tells us that this default of 120 seconds is not correct. Yet that was the decision then. They didn't want to make it too fancy because there was a project going on called client-side operations timeout, which is a cool concept. We don't have it in PHP yet, but the idea is you tell the database to do something regardless of what it is, even if it's not a transaction. And if it's not done within these 50 milliseconds, then don't freaking bother. Because I'm out of here. We'll try again maybe or something, but just forget about it. And that includes setting up connections, picking server selection timeouts, write concern errors if you hit a write concern timeout, something like that, which is 10 seconds, I think, by default. Way too long for PHP. Server selection timeouts, all of that stuff. Must not take longer than 50 milliseconds, let's say. And if you then spend like 25, 26, 27 milliseconds of that on your first request, because of how server selection everything works in MongoDB drivers, and they are the same across all of our languages, so we have to build it like this. You do a DNS lookup to get TXT records and server records of where you can find the actual MongoDB infrastructure. That allows us to completely refactor the customer's infrastructure behind the scenes in MongoDB Atlas, and the DNS record tells the application what to use, and that is monitored while you're connecting. So we could move servers to different data centers, give them new IPs, and you would always have a fully writable state while we do that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of continuity because of that, but this takes time, right?
So there is no downtime, basically?
What's downtime?
Like, you cannot connect the database because you...
All right, I have to interrupt this. I don't have the sticker on me. We have a message from our sponsor today, MongoDB. Use MongoDB for all of your database needs. Now our newest product, MongoDB Cloud, with the good catchy slogan, 9.9999% is also 5 nines. So that should be good enough for uptime. Choose MongoDB Cloud for all your uptime needs. Awesome, and we're back. Thank you for sticking through this terrible performance. I have a sticker of that, which I will give you tomorrow or later. No, so there is no downtime technically. So if you take the primary down, because you need to do maintenance on it. Let's say you want to upgrade your cluster.
Yes.
What you do is you upgrade the first secondary. And you look if it's healthy. If so, then yes. Then you upgrade the second secondary. And if everything's healthy, it's good. You make sure that there's no replication lag, everything is done, and then you tell the primary to step down. And what it will do for a certain amount of time is it will not vote for itself in an election or for anybody else. I think it does vote, it just isn't eligible to be voted on. And that's how the cluster chooses a primary that is now the one that gets the rights.
Yes.
And then you upgrade that one. Downtime, minimal, just for the short period of time while that election is happening, you have a RS, so it's called a replica set without a primary. The client will immediately know about this and will immediately know that he cannot satisfy a write concern of primary or any writes, and read concern of primary. Primary preferred will still work because it will then see there is no primary and choose a secondary. Secondary preferred will continue to work just fine. But it knows that we don't have a primary. Your reads will still work as long as you don't use primary as your read preference. So default is primary preferred, makes sense. If you know that you have a very read heavy application, secondary preferred works, especially if replication lag is not an issue, then secondary preferred is best for all your needs. There is all the other things like nearest and that kind of stuff. It only matters in like extremely distributed deployments. Like let's say you have 5 replica sets and you have 3 in Europe and 1 in the US and 1 in Asia in case somebody decides to nuke Europe off the map and everything else magically stays alive, right? You still have 2 members and you can then copy to a third one, set up a new primary, and they will work, right? But if you happen to choose the US one for a read, you now have a huge latency, right?
Yes.
So that plays into server selection, but the nearest, like the nearest read preference specifically instructs it to do that, right? And just consider RTT. There's also a specification on how that process works. Like that's a cool part. This is specified and every driver behaves exactly the same in all of this. It's a really cool thing. So you do know MongoDB Atlas. It's where our money comes from. You don't use it, you self-host, right, for free, which is totally legitimate. When I started working, or like when I started using MongoDB, it was mainly financed by workshops that they did for companies, trainings, that kind of stuff. I think a bit of sales was involved for that, but it was mainly engineering driven. And the first product from MongoDB that I used was called, I think it was Ops Manager, which allowed you to, when you have a server set up anywhere, like AWS or whatever, you install this little tool, you give it the config, and then the server shows up in this nice panel where you can see the server and you can see the MongoDB version, or you can say, I want to install this MongoDB deployment on there with this thing. And you kind of didn't have to use the command line to do MongoDB anymore.
Okay.
It was cool. I think eventually it could do these like rotating updates where it then does the secondary, then the other secondary tells the primary to step down, do the upgrade. It did all of this.
Automated.
Yes, and I think it was like 10 euro per month. It was awesome, right? Like, yes, I'll gladly pay for this stuff. And that evolved into Atlas, which I actually use as a customer. I pay around 100 euro every month to not have many requests on a database that has 600 million documents in it. It's a small test application that I wrote that I have to now finish because I saw that the data source for it is no longer public. It contains fuel price records from all of Germany. I have imported 2 years worth of data. I have like almost 10 years worth of data. So this is more than 2 billion documents. Billion with a B. What's your biggest database?
So the biggest database, I don't recall how many documents it has, but I recall how large in terms of storage it is.
Yes, please.
So I think it's more than 1 terabyte.
Yeah.
So that's the database, and the other one is like in gigabytes. And we recently, let's say year or maybe 2 years ago, we started like dropping documents because it was so big.
Wow.
So, and it was making like some performance issues for us. So we did.
We'll definitely want to chat over the next few months several times. Where are you based in, if I may ask? Let's do a bit of a intermission from MongoDB when I then continue this. But let's talk about something personal. Where are you from?
I'm from Poland.
You're from Poland.
From Poland, yes.
All right. So, because I can't tell you too much, but I need to get as much information out of you in the next 6 months. The team will want to like basically strap you to a chair and force you to continue talking.
Okay.
Like I said, we have the entire PHP team here, so I'm sure they would love to chat with you tomorrow already.
Right. I definitely need to go to your booth.
Oh yeah, you do. We have some really cool swag. We'll make sure you get all of this. No, this is awesome. I really enjoy these kind of conversations because like you have a certain passion for MongoDB, right? Like,
yeah, I like it. I'm not saying that's like for me, for example, like when I started working there, like and starting knowing each other with me and MongoDB, it was like a bit weird. But then I realized it's kind of cool database for like doing stuff, good stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah. My first MongoDB experience was it was the hype days in like 2012, 2013, and it was all the rage. I think my first version was either like 2.4 or 2.6, I think. And then they had this silly thing where it was the Unix kernel scheme with like odd numbers is def and straight numbers are stable. It's like, what the hell even? But they dropped that eventually. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, sure, what can it do? Oh, replication. Oof. I was using MySQL replication. We had a database, like 70 million email addresses in one table. The other table, 130 million accounts associated with these email addresses. Doing maintenance on that thing is a beast. Downtime 9 hours in the system that you have applications that actually directly connect to that SQL server and just fire off their queries. Others use the API, but some of them somewhere, and we don't even know where, they're firing SQL onto a database expecting something specific to happen. It's like, shit. We have created a distributed problem.
Yeah.
With a team that, they were good game designers and good developers, but they did not know their infrastructure worth shit. And why should they? It's not relevant to what they do. So I'm not shitting on them. And so I was like, okay, well, yeah, I've been wanting my SQL replication that is a bit smarter ever since I spent until 3 in the morning on a Saturday fixing this shit once again, but sure. And then I go and I'm like, okay, so how do I set up this fucking cluster? And it's like db.rsconfig and something. Well, this can't be it. And then I do this on the other 2 machines with the address from the first machine. What? That can't be it. Well, that is it. What can this do? Oh, it switches over. Well, you ask me to test downtime, I test downtime. So I go to our internal IT, I say, hey, intern season just ended. We didn't lay anyone off. Intern season ended, we have these like 10 boxes sitting around. Can you help me lug them over in the room? I need to test something. So I set up 2 extension cords, so it was 6 machines, 2 replica sets. So one was actually a sharded cluster that I boxed everything into one, and the other one was a replica set, and I wrote a small application that fires, writes, and reads at this thing and just sees what happens, and I tailed the logs, and I was like, laptop on the floor next to computers. And then I'm like, well, what would happen if I took this secondary and just, whoopsie, I pulled the network cable? What happens? And then you see like this, and the number of reads doesn't decline at all, and you're like, wow, this is awesome. And then you realize like, no, wait, this is read preference primary. It's not sending anything there anyway. So let's do this again with, secondary read preferences. And then did it, and you could see a bit of a drop because it was firing heavy. But nowhere near as bad as like dropping the secondary on MySQL would have done, because that would have sent people screaming to like, okay, how do we back up and restore a about 250 million database entries, like shit, right? And then I did the same with the primary. And then there were errors, and it slowed way down because they were all waiting for the timeout and stuff. So it's like, okay, so that hits. And then eventually it came back because a different server was primary. I'm like, okay, so there is a downtime, but it works. And they've brought that downtime way down since then. So replica set elections are actually really quick now. I don't know the timings. I would love for someone from like that side of MongoDB to do a talk at one of these conferences. It would be stunning.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Like, I would like to hear that.
So there is one problem actually, and maybe this is something that you would want to explore as a fellow speaker. there's one problem that we constantly face in web development. And I mean, we were talking about async before, and I don't want to talk about async right now. But we came up with one thing that we need is distributed transactions. So I want to do, because I need to write to this database, I need to hit that API, I need to do the other thing, and ideally all of it or none of it succeeds, right?
Yes.
Because otherwise
Atomicity,
I have a mess.
basically.
So you want that atomicity of each change so that you can do that change again if you retry, right? You want isolation, which means that these changes as you make them, they don't affect anything that is running. So nobody sees this partially committed data,
Yes.
right? Consistency. So you want the same query to have exactly the same effect as before, which is really important. And then there's D, so that was the A in ACID is atomicity, C is
Oh wow, consistency.
consistency, correct. I is idempotence or like thingy, and D was
I don't remember.
it deterministic? I don't remember. Let's
Yeah,
not talk about
same.
ACID too much. We do have that problem solved in MongoDB. We do have distributed ACID-compliant transactions across shards that hold data. Right? Like if you do a sharding setup and you need to modify things on different shards, in different chunks in the shard and stuff like that, you need to make sure that all of these various writes you are doing are consistent across all of the cluster and consistent on all of the replica set members that are required to also acknowledge the write, because write concern is majority. So in a sharded cluster, the majority of each replica set members have to agree that this can be written before it will actually write it, so that you know this is not going to be rolled back. And only if all of that succeeds may it actually commit this to disk, right? That is our problem that is solved. I would love to have someone do a talk on distributed transactions at MongoDB, or how they're implemented in MongoDB at a SymphonyCon, because I am way too dumb to understand this, and it's a problem that we face, and I would love, right, to see this stuff happening. So that is a short excursion.
Yes.
Atlas does all of this for you, right? Like you go in there and you say, start an Atlas cluster, and you choose your size. There is a free shared tier that you can use for testing and that kind of stuff, development. You can store 0.5 terabyte of data, so 512 gigabytes. It is on a shared architecture, so there is a proxy. It is safe. You don't get to anybody else's data, although safe, we can talk about queryable encryption. Then you're good. And then there's also the paid clusters where you then have your own replica set cluster, or starting from a higher size, a sharded cluster. And you can configure this sharded cluster to have low read latency or low write latency in certain regions. So if your business is active in Europe and in the US, you do want the appropriate infrastructure on each continent so that your latency isn't too bad. But you also want to have it so that if the US cluster completely went down because somebody nuked them and magically everything else was remaining intact, the US stuff should still run, just in case somebody has, some kind of internet in their nuclear bunker and decides they want to use MongoDB now. Then you still want them to be able to service them. So there is some fallback in Europe that you got to plan in. You can configure all of that. Right? You can do that with the community edition, yes. You just need to know a lot more. Whereas people like me that write database applications, never deploy them. Whenever I do, I want it easy. The PHP team recently literally spent a lot of time thinking about how do we deploy a web application with PHP these days, because we don't remember. If you haven't seen the demo we have at the booth, I can have Pauline do it with you. She rocked that up in 2 days. A really cool demo about MongoDB with AI. And we apparently now know how to host stuff. Although it did throw 500 errors while she was in a talk today, because I think the free tier of Upson or whatever she chose ran out.
Magic of live dev demos.
Yeah, so kudos on the DevOps skill, Pauline. I do not regret hiring her one bit. She is awesome. Although she did try to steal a microphone today, I heard from the sound guy. So she ran out after her talk, and he ran after her because she almost took off with the microphone. But he was like, she had great stage presence, right? So That was good to hear. So kudos, Pauline. You're doing an awesome job, and I want everybody to know it. If you didn't get to hire Pauline, sucks to be you, I guess. So yeah, you would get to meet all of them tomorrow. Have her walk you through. And Atlas pays for us to do this stuff too, right? Where we go for a shockingly low amount compared to what we pay our developers. We do pay our developers well. So that is a good thing. Well-paid developers are happy developers.
Yes, I can confirm.
You know, we can afford a
good
lot of
thing.
silliness to make up with the stress that comes with working like that, right? Like you have a lot of responsibility on a customer, right? That relies on you for income. It does feel nice to get gratification in whatever form you choose, right? Like if you like a fancy car, buy that Lamborghini. Like, you know, Taylor with his Lamborghini and the G-Class, I love it, right? Like dude's living the life. Why? No, you gotta save up for retirement. What are you, German? No, right? I wanna enjoy life. Can't take my money with me, right? So go buy the Lamborghini.
Yeah.
I remember John Wage. Do you remember John Wage? From Doctrine?
Yeah.
He bought a boat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he had a boat. He then sold it because John Wage and his wife, they moved to Grand Rapids to be closer to Ryan and Leanna. After the cancer diagnosis, they just said, all right, Nashville, we're done. Moved from Nashville, Tennessee to Grand Rapids, Michigan, and they love it there. I visited them a couple of times. It's awesome. And I'm like, yeah, you go. You had the boat. So, you know, yeah, you had to sell it, but you're also going to say, well, I wish I had a boat at some point in my life. No, you're not going to say that, right?
Yeah. That's true. That's very true.
I was able to buy myself and my son a race kart. I love karting. He loves karting. We love cars. I get to say, hey, I raced my son on a go-kart track when he was 6, and I loved it so much. And it was during COVID. We were going to Croatia a lot to drive. I would never give that back, and it allowed me to do this. So, you know, well-paid developers are happy developers. The job is stressful. We like to decompress. Things like Amsterdam here, the conference, these are great places to decompress. Like, get enough energy for the entire year out of it, right? Like this kind of conversation is like you go back to work and you're like, yeah, this is gonna be awesome, right?
Yeah.
Like you have so many new ideas. I love it. And it's the cool thing about it is it's just developers here, right? There's not a single salesperson inside. It's about what we do, what we love. We get to celebrate each other. And there's people, I was speaking of Ryan before. I consider Ryan one of my closest friends ever. I met the dude once a year, right? Like we had little contact between. I met him once a year at SymphonyCon, but he had such an impact on me. And it's these friendships that we do. Like you said, you didn't go to many sessions today. I was in all of them because I did the emceeing, but after I was done, when I saw the speaker is going and it's going well, I go out, take a quick break because it's the only break I get, and then I come back like 5 minutes before Q&A, so I don't see any talk either. The problem is I also miss out on the hallway track, which is what happens while all of the attendees are in the talk, or like right now where you know all of them are at the social, so that's where I'm not going to be because I know where other people are for conversations and stuff, and so you talk with other people that you've seen at previous conferences, made friends with. That's the nice aspect of these conferences, right?
Yeah.
Like and it's really important to do this.
For me, it's like, you know, things that you will get, let's say, step out of your bubble, so you know, go to meet new people. But basically, like I prefer like the social aspect of especially when you work remotely.
Yeah.
So you know, you sit in your house basically and work there, and you know, see people only on your display. So here you can like have this physical contact like for a few days, and it's like awesome because.
You know, we've talked about MongoDB a lot, but I don't want to just talk about MongoDB.
Mm-hmm.
And you just mentioned working physical. What's your work life like? Like, do you work from home? Do you go to a co-working space? What's your work like?
So my let's say how I work changed recently because I think everybody since COVID working from home, and that's what I wanted always, but before COVID there was not much remote work, and that was like when I tried, like I didn't get the job, let's say.
Yeah.
But right now it's very, very nice, and this vacation, when I was on my longer vacation with my family, had a thought that, okay, me and my wife, we are at home basically for 24/7, so we see each other like constantly, and I decided that, hey, I live in a big city. There is like a lot of co-working spaces, so why not try it? And I also have a friend, my good friend, Daniel.
Yeah.
Hello, Daniel, if you're listening too. So we decided that, okay, for once per week, if it's doable and we are available, then we go to some co-working. We already do it for since vacation, so 3 months already, and
Yeah.
it's not every week because it's sometimes I'm not available, he's not available. But yeah, that works great for us.
Okay. So a bit of a mix.
We try multiple places, to work and try to find the perfect spot, let's say. So and that's basically my workflow. So my preferred is home, but then I also have an alternative, which is kind of nice to have
How does your company handle it? Do they say do whatever you want, or do they say you can do 2 at home and 3 in the office, or what do they say? What's their stance?
So my company, which I'm working right now, is from different countries. So there is office, but if I would like to go to the office, I would have to fly there.
So you mean you've made sure that going to the office is too expensive for them to make you do it?
But there is no strict rule that if you live close to office, you have to go to office. It's up to you, I mean, not up to you, but more up to team. So if the team decides that they are there and wanna collaborate,
which is fine, right?
There is no strict rule, basically.
I've been remote before COVID, and I think this needs to be a sticker. Actually, I need to make a sticker. I was remote before COVID. If the sticker exists, let us know in the comments. Yeah, Jeremy, I'm copying it. Jeremy Mikola says this a lot, let us know in the comments. So do let us know in the comments if the stickers exist. And then COVID hit, and we had this home office up there with my wife's desk and my desk, and I was using it day to day, and my wife would sometimes use it in the evenings or whatever, but usually we spend time on our gaming rigs downstairs. And she was working in the office, and then COVID hit, and she starts working from home, and I think it took all of 2 weeks to be sick of my wife, who I love. I've been married with for 16 years. We got married 2 years after we got together, and haven't really had a lot of arguments until my burnout actually started a few years back. Until then, no argument. I love her like no other, but that was killing me. We were lucky enough to have a second office, so she moved over. Now we have our separate offices, which is awesome because I can write them off taxes, so I actually save 25% of my rent in taxes I get back. So it's marginal tax rate is high, so I get half of a quarter of my house rent back, basically, from the state. But anyways, and it's totally legal, by the way. In Germany, you get home office if you work from home, and you can deduct anything that you need to actually uphold that home office, right?
That's nice.
That's the idea, and it does make sense, but it is a privilege for the rich. If you have a house big enough to afford your own home office, then you can offset it. If you only have space for a desk in a corner of your living room or in your bedroom, then no, I'm sorry, you cannot claim anything because this is not a dedicated office. Sure, this may be a dedicated corner in a room, but it's not a dedicated office room.
So it
welcome
work
to
for
German
me.
regulations. Yeah,
I have a desk in my. I'm joking with my wife that we have the smallest room because we gave the bigger sleeping room for the kids.
Yeah.
So we have the smallest room for our bedroom, and we have we call it a dressing room, the office, and also a sleeping room. So it's multifunctional.
Do you have a gaming computer?
No, I don't.
Oh,
I have
okay.
this Nintendo Switch.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, because I've told people hey, if you have space for a gaming rig somewhere, make that your setup, especially if you can claim it from taxes. Because at home, and this year as well, at home I have a complete streamer setup basically. Because I do spend a lot of time in meetings since I'm completely remote, and So Jérôme is in France, Pauline is in the Netherlands, Richard is in Ireland, Jeremy is in New York. I have other team members that are in Utah and Washington State. My boss sits in San Francisco, right? So you spend a lot of time in meetings, and typically my day is like 3 hours of video calls. That is basically 3 hours streaming, right?
Yeah.
So it does make sense to have good equipment.
Yes.
Which also comes in handy when gaming, but nobody's going to check that. So obviously that's coming off of taxes, right? So this is one way where like get yourself a nice gaming rig that has enough RAM to qualify as a computer that you work on, and just write it off taxes. Fuck that shit. There's people doing much worse than that, right? It's not gonna freaking matter. And our strategy on this is like we've been remote from before because of how the drivers team at MongoDB originated. Essentially, in the early days, if you wrote a driver for MongoDB, they liked it and it gained traction, they would eventually hire you to maintain that driver for them, right? And then eventually they started writing their own drivers and stuff like that, and that's how the team was born. But that's how it ended up being remote all the time. And I remember for us, it was normal to book these Zoom rooms, which were the few meeting rooms that actually have a screen in office, because there were tons of meeting rooms without a screen.
Yeah.
So you had to be careful when you had a remote team.
Yes.
And then with COVID, that changed to everything has one now,
Yeah.
right? Because there's always going to be someone remote,
Yeah, it's like,
which is great for remote employees.
yes.
Have you, before COVID, have you done home office days? Like, have you worked
Yes.
from home occasionally?
Yes, occasionally, because it's like more like a thing when you, let's say, feel sick, but you can still work, but you
Okay.
shouldn't go to office, let's say, because
Yeah,
you feel like
yeah.
you can,
Like,
somebody
do you
else
mean-
can be sick before that.
Yeah, so which is very considerate. Like,
Yeah.
I kept telling people that all the time, like, hey, I'd rather you stay at home, and if you're too sick to work, then just don't work, right? But if you say like, no, I can actually work, I just feel a little sick.
Yeah.
Dude, stay at home, work
Yeah, exactly.
from remote.
Exactly, you can
Because
do
that way
great
you're
job.
at least not getting my team sick. And hey, if you're half efficiency, yeah, you're sick, it would make sense, right? So it's basically just do whatever you can. Anything that you contribute that isn't riddled with errors is a good thing, and more than we can expect when you're sick, right? So don't feel bad about taking that 3-hour lunch nap because you're completely dead tired.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad about it. Or the other option usually was, oh, I have a plumber coming somewhere between 8 and 4,
Yes.
right? So I'm
Somewhere
gonna
in the
work from
middle of
home.
the day, basically.
Yeah. And
Or
it's
you're
always like a
waiting-
4-hour
or
window
waiting
and they
for a
manage to
package,
come
basically.
afterwards. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Oh God, packages. Were you allowed to get packages delivered to the office?
Back in the days, but right now we don't have such problem, because we have,
So-
not sure about your country, but we have like these machines, like where
Yeah.
it's like they put the packages and you
The
go
delivery
there.
robot.
No, the delivery man just put the packages over there. It's like a pickup point.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We have that too. It's called the Paket box, I think.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something, where
that's
they just
great,
put it
like-
in, you get a message, and then you go there with a pin or something, and
yes.
it opens, you pick your package. Yeah. We have those a lot. Before COVID, we would always like ship stuff to the office, and so
Yeah. That's
in
that's
a
the
company
thing.
with like 100 engineers, they got flooded with Amazon packages
Yes.
of all kinds of tech. It was always total mayhem when it arrived. But yeah, if you got a delivery at home, like a new washer, you would stay at home. Did you feel like you were a part of the team when you did that? Like, did you have a feeling that the team knows you're there, you're working, and maybe asks you for
Yeah, the
input?
team was like they were aware that I'm working, because you can see that, like whether somebody's active, like I don't know, pushing some commits or basically doing some stuff,
Yeah.
or he's like I don't know, lying and like playing PlayStation.
Yeah.
But that was visible for me. Like we were like, okay, we had this daily meeting, so we were like calling each other.
Yeah.
So that wasn't an issue. And besides that, most of the day we were just slacking itself.
Yeah.
So there was a communication, like more like async. So we didn't. But everybody has its own task, and everybody know what to do. So that wasn't an issue, and there was like a trust in the team.
Yeah.
That we
Yeah.
do the work, and
Yeah.
it's still like this. We know that, for example, right now in my current team there is like a friend from Italy who's like has a small kid, and he's like, let's say he bought like an old house and he's like, you know, let's call
Yeah.
it refurbishing or
Yes. Oh, he's completely renovating,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
restoring an old house.
So
Oh, wow.
he works in very random
Yeah.
hours, basically.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
even in the night.
Yeah.
So you know, it's quite
Yeah.
understandable for him that he's sometimes even
Yeah.
not showing on the daily meetings.
Yeah,
But,
but
we
of
know
course.
that he is doing this job because we can
Yeah.
clearly see that maybe not in this hour, but next day you come in and you see some commits and the work is
Yeah.
done basically. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that works. So it's a matter of trust, I would say, like,
Yeah.
and visibility.
Yeah. I will share my opinion this. After this cut to our sponsor, remember MongoDB 9.9999% is also 5 nines. So please choose MongoDB Cloud for all of your uptime benefits. And with that, back to the program. So we're slowly running out of time. We're coming up on an hour, which I think is a good time to like make a cut. And
Oh, wow,
we
it's
both
1
are
hour
out
already.
of drinks. Yeah, time flies when you're having fun, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
So
It does.
what I always had the feeling was that I was working in a remote company before, and every day stand-up was like 10 people in the one office and 8 people in the other office. So it was normal to do, I don't even know what kind of video call we did, but something. I don't think it was Tom. It was a different company. I'm not sure if we were slacking off or used something else. Probably Skype or something like that.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
Skype,
probably
it was
Skype.
the fame used in the days.
I don't
dead right
remember
now.
what we used. Yeah, they killed Skype.
Yeah, they replaced it with like Microsoft Teams.
Oh my God. I'm so glad. I've never had to use Microsoft Teams.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy I don't have to. Like, honestly, if you come to a tech company and they tell you you have to use a Windows notebook and then they use Microsoft Teams and everything.
Yeah, that's
you
a bad
know-
sign. That's a bad sign.
You know you've accidentally run into a company that is run by a German that likes order and things have to be proper and precise. Usually like 10 people company with like 9 managers and 1 person that actually does any fucking
Yeah.
work. So no, we were doing that and it worked great. We all knew what the other people were doing and we did split the projects accordingly so that, you know, maybe you had one project where there was one from Munich there because he knows most about this and teaches the others and stuff, but usually it was like distributed. There's a team in St. Georgen which does a few things and a team in Munich that does a few things. Funnily enough, that was my chance of working with Alexander Turek, which you probably also know. Alexander Turek, he does a bunch of talks. He is basically the main maintainer of the Doctrine ORM. I hope I didn't offend Benjamin with this. Okay. Benjamin has picked up pace of work again as well on the ORM, I've noticed, which is great to see. Yeah, that's how I met Alexander Turek. And then at the other job, whenever I was at home, I would ping the team at like 9:05, and I'm like, hey, are we doing stand-up? Like, what the hell? And then I would get a message like 10 minutes past, oh, sorry, we forgot to call you. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I mean, I'm glad you're having fun while I'm not there. That's great. Does my imposter syndrome a lot. Then you forget me in a meeting, which is like, well, yeah, technically shit runs without me, but honestly, seriously, you didn't remember me even. That hits hard. It feels a little bit bad. So that wasn't really positive. I didn't do it a lot. What I did do was I worked on the train. So I reviewed pull requests while working on the train, 30 minutes on the way there. And on the way back, I did the same. And that's how I would get my maintenance time in. That was like 1 hour every day that the company gifted to open source. That I was doing Doctrine then. And we did more. And then Fridays, I would like leave extra early and go get a coffee at a overpriced coffee shop with a green something on there and sit there for 2 hours and work on Doctrine and then come to the office just before stand-up after taking a stroll through a completely empty shopping mall street in Munich, which is usually really crowded. It was lovely. It was great. And that's how I got my open source fix in. And that's the only remote work I did because everything else didn't work in that team. And now I feel like we've found a point where one person sits somewhere in the woods of Germany because they love nature and they just built a house there for their family. So they're there. And a person that lives in Utah, do you remember Capiphone?
What?
Capiphone was Symfony 1 time, and I think early Symfony 2 as well. It was, you would deploy your Symfony application, and it like kept the last 3 versions and flipped around a symlink so that you could easily roll back and stuff.
Okay.
It was based on Capistrano for Ruby, and written by a man called James Buck. James Buck works in the Ruby team at MongoDB. I've hired him a few years ago. He created Ruby on Rails with DHH. He was in the documentary about Ruby. If you haven't seen that, watch it. It's a great documentary, and I'm not saying this just to make James blush, but like that's a nice side effect. So they can work together. They're 8 hours apart. They're an awesome team, Dimitri and James, because basically they're covering like 15 hours of workday, right? So think about it this way. If you have an emergency, 16 hours a day, you don't have to have somebody on call because they're working.
Yes.
So you now only have 8 hours of on-call time that, since you're in Europe, you're paying people for. If you're in the US, terribly sorry, you don't get labor laws. That's what you get. So that is good. You get a lot more strength. Of course, you have to adjust processes to make it work, right? So you do more async stuff, and you have very few meetings, which also makes for very uninterrupted time.
Yes.
Right? And I think it's those advantages that we need to highlight, but we must not forget the other part, because you've become much more efficient in home office, right? Like your productivity went up like twice, right? Because what we're leaving out are these daily encounters when you go get a coffee with a coworker, or if you go to smoke, you talk to someone from another department for 10 minutes and you get all of the information, and that's what keeps things running smoothly. All of that is missing. And that's why for conferences like these, the best part is actually the human interaction, talking to people, seeing what other people do, right? And that's the motivation you get. And we recently had an offsite for the entire client libraries team in Montreal. Some of us couldn't join, some of them couldn't join, some like were just coming out of their parental leave because they just had a baby. Others, because they happened to be born in the wrong place, couldn't get a visa in time. Like, what the fuck is this, right? Like, I have a Russian in Germany, I'm an Italian in Germany, we have a Chinese person in the US, we have Americans in Germany. We don't care about borders, okay? But well, we got together in Canada, most of us, and we had 2 hours teams doing team stuff. And I was thinking, hey, I've been wanting to set up like proper estimation meetings with Scrum. I hope I'm not spilling the beans here, but we don't do that. Wanted to set up estimations, like find our reference story, and that is perfect to do in person, right? And the first day, every other team, they did something social, right? And the second day as well. The third day, we didn't do anything work either. Like, we were like, okay, well, just, let's do something, whatever. The last day we went go-karting with the team. And I underestimated how important this like socializing time is.
It
right?
is.
Because we don't get any of it. And we shouldn't feel guilty for doing a day of just socializing.
Yes.
I did a half-day tour through New York with a few people, including a new grad that was just rotating through the team last year in New York. I've had New Yorkers that were on the 101st floor of the new World Trade Center for the first time in their life because they haven't taken the time out. We were on an aircraft carrier. We did the USS Intrepid, which is it's the only place where you can see a Concorde and a space shuttle, right? Like,
Nice.
It's beautiful, right?
Nice.
And it's those moments that really define teams and make the people grow closer. So I think these kind of interactions, like, yes, this is organic interactions. This comes into contact because you make connections, right? Like, you met me outside, you know that I work for MongoDB. We're speakers, that's how we got connected.
Yes.
But for everybody else, the booth is like, you go to the MongoDB booth and you strike up a conversation and you listen to someone, right? You try the demo, and that's how you inform yourself on tech, that's how you do these social interactions, that's how you get all of that balance back, where you then go home and you're like, that was awesome, I'm looking forward to the next one, but I'm so excited to be back at work and like improving shit.
Yeah, that's very true. I can say for myself as well, like because I was also going to this symphony conference, and I was like, oh man, this will be like for me like almost 4 days of socializing.
Yeah.
So I will be like very boosted of this social, and probably when I got like, even I was speaking to my friend today, like, you know, I will came home at Friday, and then like whether it will be Saturday and Sunday, when I will finally would like to, you know, rest a bit and
Yeah.
or chill time, but there is like my family, they will be asking
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
I wanna be quiet then, but that's the how it's life. But that's usual stuff about the conference. But I really like going to home conferences, like especially meeting new people like we do right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, that's the nice part of it. So, you know, like you go out from your bubble and
Yeah.
meet new friends and exchange your experiences, your things that you like, you dislike.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
that's also great. And going back to this team thing that you said, like I can say that we also work like fully remotely. Like all my colleagues they are in my country, but they are like different place in country, and some of them are like distributed through the Europe.
Yeah.
So for us, like we have like we meet once per year, like at minimum.
Yeah.
And that's like a full week of socializing. We basically don't do work much. We like, you know, we focus on the social aspect of that, and that's like really great, and it's like very beneficial, because when you go then to your, let's say, home office, you're just smiling to this display when you see this person on it, and like you think, oh, that was like super cool.
Yeah.
Spend that time with you.
Yeah.
So you are very grateful.
Yeah. I got a lot of time with what I would call friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
We always have to be careful to not call coworkers friends, but in this case it's genuine friends, and hang out with them and like play pool and just chat. Right? Well, it's been a lovely conversation. I'm sure the first of many. If you would be interested to doing a part 2, maybe with Richard or Jérôme or someone tomorrow somewhere, we would be honored to talk to you. We'd be happy to have you back on our whatever it is that I'm doing. I guess I'm doing a podcast, or what do the young kids call it these days? Let's call it DevRel. And we'll be back next time. And don't forget, 9.9999% is also 5 nines. Choose MongoDB Cloud. That's going to get me in legal trouble. We're going to have to beep that. So that's how you mess up your exit. Thank you very much for joining. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'd love to see you back.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks as well, and have a great evening, morning, whatever.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.